Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start. My name is Vitaliy Krasnov. I work in the company Sinara Systems, and today I would like to share with you my experience of solving the problem of launching and documenting our tests. Those of you who look in the program, don't be afraid. Um, I'll answer all of your questions in the hall. First of all, should you trust me? So I shouldn't tell you how we did made a huge number of tests and made everything in leaps and bounds. I tell you more about my experience. I worked in the Sina before coming as a testing engineer to the Sinara company. I worked as a programmer. I started with the writing simple tests, back-end tests, simple functionality tests, and so on. In the 5 years after I wrote the test, I reviewed the test together with product managers and developers. I wrote and rewrote descriptions of this test. I survived several management teams and changes in the vector of work. I think I actually came across the major part of obstacles that you came across in your life. Who would find this interesting? I think many people would. The beginning testers and more experienced testers may also glean some knowledge here. What we are dealing with in our company as of today, have 100 microservices written in 3 major languages like C, Java, and Go, using very popular technologies like Kafka, Reds, PJ, HTTP, and others. We need, as the simple testing department, to find simple launch mechanism based on features, feature groups, different environments and services. Also, we need to support relevant description of the test. Sometimes we have to change the description very often. Before I came to a company, we had a heritage of about 400 plus tests written on robot framework, which became a starting point for us to choose the instrument or tool to develop our testing system. We left the Python as a language to write a test. So we continued using Python at the same time, supporting the older languages. The first major step was for us to change the robot framework into the PyTest. And the testing group that I worked in, the PyTest, was more understood and more better understood and clear. We had over 400 tests. The process lasted for as long as 3.5 years. We also selected the joint editor, PyCharm. Later on, it simplified our life because the styles are used automatically. Also, when you're helping your colleagues to change something in a test, you're using the keys that you know. First problem was, as I said, was to launch the test. First of all, we had about 400 tests written in a robot framework, and we wrote new tests at the same time. Solution here lies with the using of the simple mechanisms when we use the tags. We agreed that each test needs to involve at least one tag and then feature, services, author, and job of Jenkins. Yes, to launch tests we use Jenkins. We use night builds, and we have quite a big number of tests that run a long time. We had to separate them for 20 different jobs. And for all of it not to turn into a chaos, we put in a tag that allows us to say which job we need to launch this test. The launch of test is conducted by a simple bash script that we wrote ourselves. It is used by both developers and managers, which it allows them not to think too much about the test and it to be launched like Robot Framework or Python test. They simply send the text and get the result. On the screen, I can see the result. I removed everything unnecessary, like logs. As you can see, we launch the test, and at the end, you can see the path to the file report. This file report is sent to us by the developers if something is not working on their side. It contains the trace and track of errors that we can analyze, explain what went wrong. If we cannot understand what went wrong out of this file, we can relaunch the test manually and examine the test with the developer. The next problem that we need to solve was launching the test in several environments. As I said, we have three of them: testing, pre-production, and production, depending on the environment. All our microservices can be hosted on one host. If, if like virtual machines with all the services, or in several hosts if it's a pre-production and production. The information about where and how we keep our services is kept in a configuration file, config.json, if it's a virtual machine, or the console. To collect this information, we wrote a simple class called config loader. Its task is to call the task or console server, retrieve information about the services, and put it in itself. Nothing else. While we work with this config loader through the service manager, which has to form the Python object containing all the information about the services on demand. So we turn it into a Python service. Also, the service manager provides the basic functionality like relaunch, service of request logs, and many other things. In the services, we avoid the IPs or ports if we want to turn to the server or get information about it. We do it through the service manager. The structure of the config file you can see on the slide is the simple JSON file containing all the necessary information: host, port, a pathway to the configuration files, and so on. All this is uploaded to the config loader and provided to the service manager. In the code we use like this some abstract test part of code where we create the service manager object, and then we call request to services, service A, service B, and show information about the host. We reload both services and see whether it's ready. In our life, it always happens that we need to relaunch a microservice, and we cannot continue working until it stops. We had experience of using slips, as I did here, but life showed that it's not the best approach, and I can tell you later about it in more detail. The third problem that we came across was the problem of description. The description of tests. There are a number of reasons why we had difficulty doing this. The first one being, as I said, that you need to amend the test. We changing the functionality. We have to refresh and renew the existing test, update them to match the new functionality, and also need to change the description. Second point is the change of management. Over the 5 years that I worked in the companies, the management of the testing department changed 3 times. Each manager brought their own practices, instruments that were easy for him or her to use, which of course affected our process of documenting the test. The third difficulty is that, unfortunately, as of today, not all companies in Russia are ready to spend big money on testing departments. I think many of you will understand me here. And also, the number of tests that we need to fulfill regularly is growing. We had one set of tests and we'll get a new feature tomorrow. We add another set of tests, another and another, but nobody said we shouldn't have support of the existing test, and it's very hard to do manually. The problem we came across against the name change the or amendment of description of many parts or services poses a big risk of uh, forgetting the difficulties. The free of charge services do not cover all the needs. The third party services and solutions are quite expensive, and again, they're not always as convenient. I think here people who work in the closed sectors will understand a bit better. The third party solutions and integrations can be uh, banned to use by the security company security. We had an attempt to use Confluence to keep the manuals and documentation. It's a good solution. You can break it into pages and see the history of changes, but unfortunately you need to sign in separately to find the Confluence and amend it. It was um, proposal to use Jira, but I think Jira is mostly used not for the document storage, but for something else. We tried to get to use plugins together with Jiras like Metric, Qmetry, Testrial, and Zephyr. They turned out to be quite expensive, and when we decided to integrate it with Jenkins and PI, we understood that we need to buy another plugin, which is not that cheap, and use the experience of using Google Docs allows us to follow this history of changes, but it worked too slowly because we tried to edit too many tests at the same time, and all the tests were made in a different style using different colors. It turned out into chaos. We looked at all these minuses and trying to find solutions. We drank coffee and decided to do something which will be convenient for us. We found a solution, decided to store the test description in the source code. Here's how it looks in practice. Each test has a standard block of Python documentation, consists of three sections. The first one, description, being the short description of the test, what it kind of test it is, and what it's used for. Second section includes the steps that the test passes during its operations. And the third one is the expectations, our expectations that we want to get after the test runs stops running. We want to get the answer to the question why it is so and what it achieves. Also, we wrote a simple service that collects all the test descriptions, puts it in one place, and shows it to us. First, all the descriptions and steps are shown in the page. It's possible to send the link to this test at the GitHub. So there's a latest result of using this test where it was launched, and the last option is very convenient for developers and testers of other companies. We decided not to limit ourselves with the results of the latest, with the information about the latest results. It was a precedent when the management asked us how the test was run 3 months prior, but the Jenkins only stores the 15 iterations and launches of the website of the tests. We have pluses and minuses. Among the minuses or disadvantages is that we do it ourselves. We have to spend our own time and money to support this product. If something works badly, we need to use sprints for this. Second, as of today, we don't see the fully implemented functionality of test scripts and runners, which makes it inapplicable for manual testing. But from the very beginning, it was designed as a test for automated testing. We don't have possibility to add test directly from the web interface, but again, it's done for the purposes of automation. We planned from the very beginning that they would be added from the source code, and our dream is generation of the descriptions from the test steps. At some point, it will be a reality.
Advantages. You don't have to switch between the services. We corrected the initial one, we committed, and we live happily. Second, change history. You can check it in GitHub. You can see who did the first changes and what fragments of the test were changed. Third, all the descriptions, results, and reports are in one place. Now we don't have to jump between Jira and Confluence. We go to our service, see the results, the steps, the reports, the mistakes, and check everything and correct everything. Fourth, flexibility and an ability to change any component. You don't have to contact any technical support guy. If you have a necessity to create a new feature, we can add it on our own. We can develop it the way we need it and not the way the product owner offers it. And fifth, ability to automatize routine. We use tags to launch tests. We have test suites and test cases. We know about them, but developers don't know about them. They need some kind of a list. The generation of lists, tags, and tests is performed automatically without our participation. If we add a test to the code, it will be automatically added to the description. What do we have at the beginning? Developers and managers can easily start our script. They know where to find the list of tags and the list of tags we need to launch. All the managers can see the description of tests in the way they want it and where they want it. If a new manager comes and says, I want to see it in Confluence in some kind of super duper beautiful format with a wonderful type, we will be able to publish it like that on our own. We don't have to scratch our head and think about reformatting. The majority of tasks is performed without our participation, which gives us time for coffee and cookies. Thank you. That's it. Questions? Thank you for your talk. I have a naive question. Why not Alu? I will have an evident answer. We don't work with that. We even haven't checked it. Okay. You know, many solutions. Oh, okay, I'll answer this question later. Many solutions that we used on Confluence and docs were given by us, by managers. The managers came to us and told us we wanted to look like that. That's it. I have a technical question. Okay, about prod test. Do you have test data and how do you clean it after the check? This list of prod tests is limited. All the data created there is deleted after the test. We strictly follow such tests. In test environment, we launch our tests with the steps when we clean everything in our system. In prod environment, we create an object, we check it and delete it. And the test is written so that even if a test doesn't work, it will anyway delete the object. Okay. Thank you, Vitaliy. During your presentation, You gave us information. We developed, we created this and that for testing. When you say me, do you say testers or developers? We are testers. For now, it just happens so that the whole testing department of our company are former developers. According to the initiative of managers, they searched for testers with good knowledge of Python. And the questions were about the list, what kind of sorting you are going to use, and so on. That's why we are all developers.